You know what, Rhys? I'm really sick of talking about chipmunks and torture. We haven't done a director in what feels like over a year.
Yeah, but, it's so hard to nail down what a good director marathon would be, right?
Yeah, true. Oh, alright, I got an idea. How about Kevin Smith?
Too long.
Lars von Trier?
I don't think my mental health could cope with that.
Oh, I got it. Tarantino.
Dude, we already did that. That's literally the last one we did. Actually, I got it. I've got 3 letters for you, Kane. P-T-A.
Who?
You gotta be fucking kidding.
Here's the first movie.
Did you know I'm utterly insane?
Peel that pig and slice him thick.
The body count is always bigger.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
And the fucking trees walked in those movies.
Hi, doggy.
What a story, Mark.
The greatest trick the devil ever pulled.
It's just like your opinion, man.
Life moves pretty fast.
If you want your sequel to become a franchise.
37 dicks.
In a row?
I'm your #1 fan.
G'day, ladies and gents, and welcome back to another episode of Marathon Me with your host, Kane.
And Rhys.
And today, you heard it right, we are discussing PTA for our new series of Marathon Me. Our first director of 2024. Last year, we had Tarantino, and early 2022? No, 2022, we had Wes Anderson, or was that 21?
I think we recorded it like 6 months before we even posted it, so I have no idea.
Well, anyways, doesn't matter. This is our third director filmography we're taking on, and funny enough, the second with Anderson in the name.
The second with Anderson, the second that rose up in the 90s because of because of like being obsessed with like the sort of video store culture and cinema as a whole. It is, we're mixing them up a little bit. The tiniest bit of combination.
True. But yeah, no, so anyways, yes, we are doing PTA, and don't worry, I know who he is, guys, okay, Paul Thomas Anderson. However, I will come right out and say it, I am not really at all familiar with his filmography. I know what he's directed, I'm very familiar with the films that he's done, but I've never seen really any of them apart from Punch Drunk Love and Licorice Pizza, and those were like back in 2021, so this is pretty much, like, I'm going into this even more blind than the Tarantino marathon. Luckily, I've got my co-host and, the man in the driver's seat for this series, Rhys Marks, the PTA expert, to guide us through, so take it away, Rhys.
I cannot even put into words how excited I am for this one, especially that you've only seen 2 out of the 9 films that he has. And I'll give a little bit of a rundown for people that aren't across who this guy is. He goes by the name Paul Thomas Anderson, and he's a filmmaker that emerged in the early 90s, centrally, and he's valued at such a high standard that he has a nickname. People don't even call him his name most of the time. They just narrow it down to PTA because he's always mentioned in the discourse of the best living directors today. And I, as a diehard, hardcore PTA fan, would 100% agree. This guy just... It honestly baffles me, the amount that he can just bring out banger after banger after banger, and he's still working to this very day with the most recent film of his being Licorice Pizza, and under his belt he has 9 feature films, 5 shorts, 23 music videos, and is still kicking.
He did music videos?
He did a lot of music videos, man.
Wow. Okay. Oh, this is just the tip of the iceberg of the lore that I'm going to be that's going to be thrown at me. I can't wait.
And when you hear that out loud, does it sort of make a little bit of sense to you when, like, now that you've seen a few of his films, that he's so musically minded in the way that he actually makes these films? And realistically, what excites me about this guy as well is that even though he's been going since the early 90s, he's still a dude that is making that is fairly young in sort of a director's standard and potentially has decades and decades of filmmaking left in him.
Yeah.
That maybe we've only seen the sort of tip of the iceberg of what this guy has to offer. Maybe we've just seen a couple of waves and phases of PTA, but there's all this more to uncover beneath.
Right, yeah.
But anyway, without further ado, before we jump into his first feature film, I want to bring up 2 little short films that he made before his first film, which are worth mentioning because they sort of fit in perfectly with the continuum of PTA. The first one being one that he brought out in the late 80s called The Story of Dirk Diggler, which is credited as actually, this isn't a PTA film. This is directed by Paul Anderson. Totally different guy. No, but
Paul Anderson. When you said that,
Paul Anderson.
When you said Paul Anderson, I'm just thinking the Resident Evil director or the Alien vs Predator directors. There's too many Andersons, bro, and there's too many Paul Andersons. There's 2 Paul Andersons. What the fuck?
Well, that's probably exactly why he thought, okay, I'm gonna put my middle name in here. And yeah, this was a mockumentary about the life and death of a porn star. Very, very amateurish, sort of VHS camera style. And this is probably the worst thing that I've seen him make, to be honest.
Okay.
It's quite poorly done, but you know what? We've all got to start somewhere. And it opens this can of worms between the frustration that exists between your perceived persona and the human that you actually are, right? And like, that is something that remains consistent through, like, his entire filmography. And you know, I do not mind that it's actually quite difficult to get through. It's all on YouTube. It's like 25 minutes or something. But it started some concepts flowing in this man's brain. And also, quite obviously, it led to one of his first feature films that we'll be talking about in, like, the next couple of episodes. But then, after that, he then directed a short called Cigarettes and Coffee, not to be confused with the feature film Coffee and Cigarettes by Jim Jarmusch.
Okay. No, I was thinking because I've heard of Coffee and the Jim Jarmusch one, and I was thinking like, does Wes Anderson ever handed that? And then I looked up the letterbox. I'm like, okay, no, this is completely different shit. Okay, fucking hell, confusing.
Yeah, completely different things. This one is this one, the cigarettes come before the coffee, very integral.
Yes.
And it's a short depicting 3 different conversations happening at a diner, all surrounding a $20 note that is on the floor, all coexisting in their own little world. And this one was made for $20K with the money that PTA was going to, what that was saved for him from his dad to go to film school. That instead of going to film school, he decided, I'm going to make a movie. What's a better way of film school than doing that? And he did, with also some combined funds that he won gambling with his girlfriend's credit card.
I love it.
So it's seeming like a little bit of a trend here for directors that are getting their careers started with credit card money, potentially going into debt, as well as not going to film school and instead just funding their own little film experimentation.
That's kind of inspiring, Loki, where it's just like, let's just do it kind of thing. The let's just do it mentality. I fuck with that.
And this short oozes this sensation of that he has a story that he wants to tell. Like, there is, and that is essential, what you need, I think, to start a career like this. And with Cigarettes and Coffee being set entirely in a diner with conversations between 2 people that you're trying to figure out where this is sort of going, obviously would feel like a seed that is planted to grow into our first feature film that we're tackling today, which is Paul Thomas Anderson's feature directorial debut, Hard 8. And here's a bit of the trailer of that film.
I saw a cat have a heart attack right at the craft table. Bam! The game just keeps going on. I mean, people are yelling, place the 8. Somebody call an ambulance, place the 9. Meanwhile, this old bastard's laying on the floor like, the people are still playing.
You know those big monster books of matches? I had one of those in my pocket once, and I'm standing there in line for a movie, and all of a sudden just wham!
I have to make money. I have bills. I have an apartment that I have to pay for. I have a car. I have a Camaro. I mean, that costs money, you know?
Come on, old time, you gonna join us?
$2,000 Hard 8.
Oh, man, you play that game. You are big time.
Hello, Captain.
Tell me something. Are you required to flirt as some part of your job?
They don't say to do it.
But if you don't?
How to lose the tip?
You know how to count cards?
No.
If you don't know how to count cards, better stay away from blackjack.
I'd like 150 in dollar tokens.
I see the way John worships you and follows you like you're his captain.
John is a very old friend.
I haven't told John, but I know about Atlantic City.
He thinks you don't like him.
I don't.
So, Kane, this is the first time that you are seeing this film, correct?
Yes.
And I am very, very curious to hear what you have to say, because this doesn't feel too quintessentially like a PTA movie just yet. It's like he's still sort of finding his footing to just be able to make a feature in the first place, and it's going to be a bit of an outlier for the entire marathon. But I want to hear, were you into it?
Well, I'll quickly state by saying I had never heard of this movie until until a couple weeks ago, when the idea of doing PTA was conceived for this series. So I was very excited to go into this. It was like, oh yeah, okay. I'm legitimately going in blind. I didn't know who was in it, didn't know what was going on. And I will say, I thought I liked it. I quite liked this movie. However, I feel that having watched the first three fucking hell, I'm gonna keep...
You already made the mistake once.
Well, the first time was intentional. This was unintentional. No, but anyways. Well, actually, it's funny that I made that mistake, because this feels kind of reminiscent to, say, something like Bottle Rocket by Wes Anderson, where the film itself is good, but compared to what comes later, it, as you said, is a bit of an outlier. I quite like this, and I enjoyed my time with it, but a lot of it has lost its impact a little bit. Not that it's bad, it's a fine time, I'd say.
Okay, interesting. Well, I definitely, on my initial watch of this, where I probably watched it for the first time around 2 years ago or something, I definitely did not like it. This was not my jam, and it was one of those movies that I think I was half on my phone for when I first watched it.
Yeah.
So then, going into it for the rewatch for the podcast, of course, the phone was turned off. It was locked in a drawer. I was not looking at that. I was tuned in directly to the film.
Good man.
And this time around, I thought it was fucking brilliant.
Damn, okay. First movie in and Rhys is already in love again. Fucking hell.
Already, exactly. I could not have said it better myself. I fell in love with this film. And the layers and complexity to the main characters that we're following, it was wrapped around me. Like, I was locked in so much. And I felt like that I knew these people by the end of the film.
Yeah.
So I did, this is pretty high up, great way to start. And it definitely, overall, I would say near the end, sort of loses itself a little bit, and I think goes... it gets feels a little bit silly almost when it isn't as grounded and human.
Yeah, right.
But PTA exploring Vegas is a very stimulating location that also balances this sort of sadness in the environment that I think PTA just did so well. And this entire film picks up at this point, right, where we're meeting one person that can completely upend your life potentially, right? Especially when lost. So
yeah.
It's like we join John C. Reilly's character, that you can see that he has not a lot going on in his life right now, and how meeting this one person can change everything. What did you sort of think about these characters? Were you feeling them? Were you into them?
I quite enjoyed them, honestly. I will say that just quickly that I've been seeing a lot of John C. Reilly this month. First rewatching Step Brothers and then watching these PTA movies. So much more John C. Reilly than I was expecting, but no complaints whatsoever.
It's a good month.
Oh yeah, no complaints whatsoever. Because my God, I've only really seen him in comedies, and I'm like, wow, this man can actually act. What the fuck? This is cool. No, I really did get behind John C. Reilly's character and his relationship with Sydney in the film. I thought it was really great. I feel like that's kind of, in my eyes at least, that's mainly the heart of the movie, is that relationship dynamic between the two. I thought it was really well done and really, really sweet in a way, you know?
Oh, totally right. And so John C. Reilly's character's name is John, and he's a pretty sort of general, almost audience surrogate for completely lost, and he needs something to sort of find him and guide his life on the way. And Philip Baker Hall plays this character Sydney, who seems like that he sort of has his shit in order, his life is all in the right place that it should be, so then decides to almost mentor and pick up this dude. And oh my god, even though so John C. Reilly, freaking brilliant, right? Like steals, like he steals usually any scene that he's in.
Yeah.
But Philip Baker Hall,
oh my god, dude, he's so commanding in this movie. Like every time, like John C. Reilly's great, but every time Philip Baker Hall is just monologuing in this film or just yapping, I'm glued to it. I'm like, yes, just keep talking. I just want to keep hearing him telling these stories or just interacting with these characters. Like I'm completely just invested in this dude. Like my god.
Philip Baker Hall's eyes tell an entire story. It does help that they're sort of half falling out of his face, it looks like, but it definitely does lead to a very emotional story, no matter what character he's playing, usually.
Yeah.
And it grabbed me so much because, like, what was as the film sort of goes on, what did you feel this dynamic was all about? Like, did you have, like, an overall contention that you're like, okay, this is what's sort of happening?
Well, at first I'm just thinking that... Well, I didn't really know what to think at first. I'm just thinking that, is this just a random act of kindness from this Good Samaritan, or maybe this is like Philip Baker Hall's character is a person that had something messed up happen in his past, and he's trying to atone by helping this just seemingly random person. And then as the film goes on, when it's revealed that, he was responsible for the death of John's father in the film, I'm like, okay, that makes so much sense, and it really works as well, because it makes a already sweet relationship between the two, gives it a nice bittersweet kind of feeling to it, which I was like so invested in. Like I really loved that, because one thing that was really interesting about this film is that just I wasn't sure where it was going to go, kind of thing, and I'm thinking like, it's going to be like some weird kind of quirky heist movie about like fucking over casinos or whatever, and then halfway through, we got like what is it? John C. Reilly and Gwyneth Paltrow like trying to hold a guy hostage at a motel, and I'm like, okay, this movie's taking a bit of a more darker, more crime turn, very 90s-esque Tarantino, Scorsese kind of vibes I felt in the film.
Oh, totally. This feels very Scorsese, I think.
That was a thought I had while watching the movie, but especially as the days were leading up to recording, you can definitely tell that maybe less so Tarantino, but definitely like Scorsese, big inspiration for PTA for a lot of these earlier films, especially Hard 8.
Yeah, totally. It's funny that you mentioned that Sydney's character, it's revealed that, he killed John's father, and it's almost like he's trying to make up for the sins that he's committed, and like becomes this sort of father figure to John.
Yeah.
But it is honestly probably my least favorite part of the film.
Really?
That the reveal that Sydney killed John's dad.
Okay.
I feel like it's not. I feel like it's not necessary. Almost.
Would you say you would have preferred like just the ambiguity of like why he's taken this seemingly random person under his wing? Would you say you preferred that angle?
That's the thing, right? Is that I didn't even feel like it was ambiguous before that.
Right.
I felt like that I had filled in the gaps and it gave me enough information that I needed to know, right?
Okay.
Because Sydney also has 2 biological kids that are around John's age, right?
Yeah, okay.
A daughter and a son that he is now estranged to. And you don't know why or like what the reason is or anything like that. But you can put the pieces together, right? That like Sydney pretty much seems to have his life in order, but he doesn't really have anyone to share it with.
Oh, okay.
And like that's the reason why he almost takes these surrogate children under his wing, right? Like
I see.
With Clementine as well, played by Gwyneth Paltrow. And I really liked this element that everyone that Sydney tries to help, they're hesitant to the help because they immediately are like, "What do you want from me?
Yeah, right.
What is it that you're looking for from me?" And it's this this human insecurity that everyone always wants something from you, and you cannot trust just general kindness, especially in a city like Vegas, right? Which is known for its underbelly and its dirtiness and griminess and all the crime that's there.
They call it Sin City for a reason, baby.
Yeah, like it really presents that John and Clementine are lost in this world, but Sydney is a little bit as well, and they synergetically find each other and can fill that gap for one another, and I felt like that was enough.
Okay.
And I felt like that it was okay. So this is what I felt through most of the film, is that it was a hopeful story, even when like the tides turn and the hostage thing happens, and it's a really dark scene and it's a dark event. Sydney helping them for no reason other than that he cares about these people is, I thought, a hopeful message that it's like people can just care and give a shit.
Right.
And it really got me thinking about the concept of having a mentor. Like this is, have you ever had a mentor in your life?
Not that I can think of. No, not particularly.
I think that I've been lucky enough in my life so far to find some mentors here and there. And one of them being like my, this is so embarrassing if he hears this, but my friend Christian, from Cinema Nova, who like really sort of, it felt like took me under his wing and gave me opportunities and tried to project me and push me on a path that would have been a lot harder without him.
Right.
And there's like, of course, this human defense mechanism of thinking, what does this person want from me? But maybe they just want to help someone else.
Yeah,
because
okay.
When you think of the trajectory of conventional life, right, is that you try and build yourself up and work as hard as you can to get to a level of comfort. And you know, there's quite possibly an outcome where you get to that comfortable zone. Maybe you're in your early 40s and you have your partner, you have your job that you're satisfied with, you have enough money that can give you the comfortable life that you want. What else is there to sort of aim for and aspire to? And I think that what that is finding someone else that you can build them up as well. And getting some satisfaction from that. So this whole movie to me felt like it was about the beauty of mentorship almost.
Okay.
And it made me feel very like it made me feel very grateful for selfless people out there that once they've sort of figured out their own shit, they're using their own platform and their own sort of abilities to try and build someone else up. And that's what I felt Sydney was here. And it almost deconstructs this hope when it's revealed that Sydney actually has a much darker past than we even thought. And maybe saying it out loud here, it shouldn't be my least favorite part of the film because it is the contention that PTA is maybe trying to get across, right? Maybe that's it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I quite like the whole inclusion of the switch up of a dynamic where it is perceived as, you know, just sweet and selfless, but then I wouldn't say like an ulterior motive behind the reason why he's so sweet on Clementine and John especially. But I do quite like when there's just there's a little bit of darkness and a little bit of tragedy just injected into a dynamic like that. That's just my kind of personal taste kind of thing. But I completely understand what you mean by the whole, you know, selfless mentor angle kind of thing, where they're doing it just purely out of just, you know, almost like as trying to find a new sense of purpose by trying to give someone else a sense of purpose, if that makes sense. Like I hear what you're saying, and I quite enjoy that actually.
And it does play on audiences' insecurities as well, right? Because you sort of can't help but when you see Sydney and John sit down in the diner for the first time, you can't sort of help but also think, what is it that Sydney wants from this guy?
Oh, yeah.
Is he gonna,
I completely thought that, yeah.
Is he going to use him and take advantage of him in some way? And then when you see that, like, I think it's 6 months later, right? That's like the time skip.
Yeah.
Seeing that they're still friends and they seem to have like I don't know if healthy is the right word, but like a a non-damaging relationship anyway.
Yeah, they have a decent rapport with each other, which is quite interesting to see.
And what I think that this film really, really sets up and does extremely well, that then becomes like a massive motif and reoccurring pattern for characters in PTA universes, is that it got to a certain point in this movie where I thought all of these characters but Sydney are just kids. Like, they're just big kids.
Yes.
That have, like, grown up and been forced into adulthood too quickly. And like, they are missing their parents. Like, they literally, like, John literally has no parents anymore.
Yeah.
Clementine is also all alone. Even like, Jimmy, played by Samuel Jackson, is like, I saw him as almost like the friend that your kid has that you know is a bad influence, and you wish that he wouldn't spend time with him, but you can't really do anything about it.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what the dynamic. It feels like this single dad with two kids, and then the friend that you know is a bad influence.
Yes,
and that's like the entire dynamic of this film. And I loved that. And I felt like it almost didn't need then the It didn't need this whole, like, murdering John's father sort of element.
Right, yeah. No, I completely get that. I get your point of view.
And I think that it made me see that I think that PTA is very interested in exploring how sort of family dynamics can arise in different layers of life. Like, because right, like, this is how we grow up and like humans are formed in like normal sort of in culture, is that the first 18 years of your life or whatever is you're in this family dynamic, and then you're maybe expected to only go into the big wide world for like, you know, traditionally maybe 10 years or so, until then you just become the top of another family dynamic again. And that's like, so no wonder that we can sort of feel and project that dynamic into other layers of our world. Like here's like a real life example, right? So my living situation at home at the moment, I love it so much. It's so great. I live with one person who is my age, and then one person that is about 16 years older than both of us. And I cannot help, even though that they are not doing anything to make me feel this way, but I cannot help but almost like project this family dynamic onto the situation where it feels like the older person in the house is like the sort of parent of the house.
Yeah,
like
right.
I can be a little bit louder and a little bit less like conservative when they're not home, but then when it's like just me and the other person that's my age, it's like, oh, it's just the kids are home now.
Yeah.
Oh, we can sort of let loose and whatever.
Yeah.
And even at work, right? It's almost like that. Like this sort of, I think that a lot of us at work don't want to disappoint our boss because we don't want to disappoint this almost sort of like mother figure.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that PTA is trying to explore that here very, very much so.
Yeah, it definitely is very indicative of like a very the whole found family kind of trope where it's like sometimes the family that you are born into by blood, that can almost, I guess not in this situation, be null and void, but like, you know, obviously because John's parents are dead, but like, he, you know, obviously finds that found family within Sydney, and then obviously, you know, like, you know, falling in love and marrying Clementine, and then, yeah, that's similar to, you know, your kind of situation type shit, where it's, you almost have your own kind of found family in your current living situation in Sydney right now. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, totally. And it's like, it's complicated and a bit weird, but it's what we sort of do as humans. Well, I mean, it's weird.
I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, that's just the human experience in general. It's for lack of a better word, weird. even with just family dynamics and everything, whether it be blood or found family. Yeah, it's always just weird from the day you're born to the day you die. It's just weird.
Yeah, and it's great timing that we're talking about this other movie about like weird chosen family dynamics right after Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Yeah.
All the same theming.
Yeah, true.
So,
oh my god, yeah, mate. Oh, I can't believe the Chipmunks movies. They took all this inspiration from PTA's filmography.
Yeah,
damn,
exactly.
they were cooking, boys. I tell ya.
Yeah, they know what's going on in film culture, and they're trying to perpetrate. Big fans of the PTA over there at the Alvin house. I feel like that a scene that encapsulates this domestic dynamic, right, is perfectly that hostage scene that comes up where like so there's a point where John and Clementine decide to just elope and get married out of nowhere, and then it ends up that like Clementine is like selling her body to someone at a bar, and they don't end up paying her, and then John and her sort of like hold this guy hostage, and the way that when Sydney comes to help them, and the way that both of these adults are reacting to the hostage that they have, it's like kids that have done something wrong, and they're begging their dad to help them clean up this mess. And dad's
it's so much like a father scolding his children for fucking up. Yeah.
And dad has come home and he's willing to clean it up, but he's going to let them know that he's disappointed in them in the first place. And that, it's definitely, someone only does that, right, if they feel like they have a responsibility to those people.
Oh, yeah, completely.
And here's where I don't like the inclusion of this like father murder, right? Because he feels and treats Clementine in the same way as John. Clementine doesn't have that story and like significance. Why can't it just be enough for both of them that he sees these lost souls and he wants to lift them up?
Right. Okay.
Like it gives a bit of like a double standard there that Clementine doesn't require that, but then John does.
Yeah.
So it almost feels a little bit forced in there because it's like we've got to have a bit more explicit crime and violence and stuff like that injected in there.
I was gonna add on that. Well, like, because like I still do like the twist, but you know, thinking about it, maybe that was maybe not a studio mandate kind of thing, but maybe as you were kind of alluding to before, that maybe it was added in to kind of punch up the third act in a sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, here's Rhys's fanfic alternative ending that I've just thought of now.
Okay.
Is what if that whole reveal doesn't come up, and it doesn't come up until like the third act, right? What if the third act is more about so you see foreshadowed in the entire film that Jimmy is this sort of chaotic figure that is very potential, has a lot of potential to corrupt John.
Yeah.
And what if that is what reaches its head, right? What if John gets involved in this hostage situation or in something even far worse, like, I don't know, bank robbery, some other thing, I don't know, extorting someone because of what Jimmy is taking him into. And then the sort of conflict is between Sydney wanting to cut off that like bad influence friend, but struggling between the conflict of, but you are an adult, John. It's like, how much control and how much responsibility do I actually have?
Right.
It's like, I wish that I could tell him, no, don't see this person. But then there almost be a scene where he tells John, you're an adult, I can't tell you who to see and who not to see.
Right, okay.
And then that sort of leads to the explosion at the end. To the figurative emotional explosion where then Sydney really realizes that, no, that is, why do I feel like so insecure about not having control over this man?
Yeah.
Because I'm looking for a kid. I'm looking for someone to fill my child-filled hole.
Right, okay, okay.
And then John as well, by not taking the advice of Sydney, being like, no, I am an adult, I am grown up, and then finding himself in this awful situation, maybe then sort of realizing, or the audience realizing, oh, what he needs is this guiding figure. He's not ready yet. He's not ready yet to go on his own path.
Okay, that's not a bad little fan fiction right there. That'll get a couple hits on Wattpad, I reckon.
Yeah, but hey, I am no PTA. I do feel like he knows what he's doing.
I can just, mate, PTA is listening to this episode right now. He's seething with rage right now. He's like, oh, I knew I should have written like that. He's
Yeah,
saying
exactly.
exactly what I was thinking back in the 90s. Shit.
Rhys is right. Who knows? Maybe PCA does think that because he is the sort of filmmaker that does look back at his old films and does think I could have and would have done this differently if I made it now.
Well, that's the mark of a good filmmaker, though, is when, or just like a good creative in general, is where you can look back at your previous work and maybe not be so harsh in it, a la like David Fincher with Alien 3, but like look back at your old work and realize that like, oh yeah, no, I can, like use it as like a learning tool for your future work, where it's okay, I don't like how I did this, let's do this kind of thing different, and etc., etc.
Yeah, totally. I want to hear a little bit from you, Kane, of what you thought of some of these extended characters here, because there pretty much is just these four main cast members, and everyone else is a little bit of gap fillers.
Yeah. Well, what do you call it? Well, one, I wasn't expecting Samuel L. Jackson to fucking make an appearance in the film. That caught me bloody off guard, I'll tell you what. I thought he was...
I know, right?
I thought he was a nice inclusion. It gave me Jackie Brown flashbacks a little bit. With just, just unexpected Samuel L. Jackson just popping in, being a kind of, being a force of chaos. I will say, I quite liked, when he has that blow up with Sydney. I was about to call him Jimmy, Samuel Jackson's Jimmy. When he has that blow up with Sydney and is threatening to, expose the truth about, Sydney's past with John's father. I quite like that he's literally like, obviously he extorts him for money, but I like that he just is legitimately doing it just out of like loyalty to his friend. He's just like, no, you hurt my friend. He doesn't know. I'm gonna tell him. I like that. I did not. Yeah, I liked it. I liked that. I was just like, oh, okay. There's no. Because I'm thinking, like, is there going to be, like, some ulterior motive or something, like, he's a part, like, there's some, like, criminal enterprise or whatever. It's like, no, it's just, he's going to hurt Sydney for hurting his friend, and I'm like, okay, well, he's a force of chaos, but that's oddly sweet, I guess.
and that's such the element of him being just, like, the bad best friend, right?
Yeah, completely. Like, he's a bad best friend, but he's still, like, he still sees John as his best friend, so he's like, oh, okay, I'm doing what I think is right, and what I think is right is threatening to kill his father figure and extort him for money. So the old saying goes.
He may not be the best person, he may not even be an extremely good criminal, but, he's a good mate. He's a good mate of mine.
He's a good mate, and he had good intentions.
And that's it. Like, I feel like the thing that makes him more a bad person than a good friend, though, is that he does take the money over helping his friend.
Oh yeah. Like it still leads to him being a fucking bastard. But he's initially his heart was in the right place, but then $6,000 and then he's like, oh okay, never mind. What was I yelling about again?
Jimmy, to me, strikes me as such a man that is just at every turn, every corner, everything he says is just trying to prove himself.
Yeah.
All the time.
God.
He does not know who he truly is in his heart, doesn't feel secure about it, so he's always trying to prove himself.
Yeah.
And Sydney sees through this right away. I think that's why he doesn't like him more than anything.
Oh, yeah, completely.
Is that it's just like, I don't like that you are like that you are so unsure of yourself and you feel like that you have to sort of maintain this face all the time. And that my son thinks that you're cool. You're not cool. You don't even know who you fucking are. That's like that was my take on Jimmy the whole time.
Right, yeah. That makes sense.
What I really like about this is that it feels like that all the performances are so sure of that character, like as in that they all completely understand the brief.
Yeah, all the performances feel very well realized, and even though a lot of these they're played by actors that I'm very familiar with, as the film goes on, and I'm not just seeing John C. Reilly, Gwyneth Paltrow, Samuel L. Jackson, I'm just seeing these characters just going through these situations. This is really great, especially for a first time, for a film debut. Is just how well realized these characters are for a first timer. A first timer in terms of a cinematic release. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. Okay, the whole way that this movie is directed, it looks extremely professional. It flows so beautifully, and oh my god, like straight out the gate, it being this good is pretty crazy to me. Like just the first scene alone, right, inside the diner, is just a conversation that goes for probably around 10 minutes, maybe.
Yeah.
And, like, I don't know about you, but it had my attention from beginning to end.
Oh, same here.
And there's so many little nuances in the way that scene's directed to keep you reeled in. With that, it starts off with such basic cinematography, with just, like, you know, like back of shoulder reverse shot, just like chop sort of thing through their conversation.
Very just like a surface level, very like a baby's first editing shit kind of thing.
Yeah, but then immediately the gambling starts to be brought up, and it feels like that. It's almost like the first moment that it feels like the conversation has a little bit of motive behind it. Then there's this panning shot, the first sort of like motion that you see in this scene inside the diner with the camera, and the energy is immediately amped up.
Yeah,
like you're immediately made to think like, oh, okay, like now the conversation is getting juicy. There's just been context beforehand of them trying to almost get to know each other, but now like the decisions and things that are going to be said right now may change the course of these characters' lives.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I feel like
completely agree.
I feel like you immediately get that sensation, and I love that. And I think that one thing that didn't really strike me as much through this scene or film as much as it did in Cigarettes and Coffee, but definitely a similar idea there, right? Is that with Cigarettes and Coffee, there's 3 different conversations going on at once, all the different tables, have nothing to really do with each other, even though they're at the same location, and all of them are conversations that are completely, like, world-changing for those people.
Right.
Even though that they're so different, one is about someone that is, like, wants to kill someone, another one is about, like, a relationship that's on, like, the fray, and then the other one is someone who has someone hostage in their boot of their car.
Oh, wow, okay.
and what I think this feels very, very reflective of is this idea of that, like, everyone at any time has their own story going on. And it almost feels like that. I can picture PCA being at a diner, sitting there, looking around at all the interesting, unique characters that would be in an environment like that, and almost like playing with what their stories could be, and that even though that they're so close to one another, how closed off and hyperfixated we are on our own stories instead of the ones that could be right next to us.
Right.
And this and how this is embodied in Hard 8 is that this simple conversation in a diner where it is 2 seemingly random people just interacting, and by almost coincidence, is life-changing. And okay, now I'm going back on how I actually really don't like the connection between John and Sydney with the whole murder thing, because it's like, I think that there's a lot more power in them being complete strangers and happenstance and coincidence being the motivation behind this.
Yeah, right.
Instead of that,
no, I get
like,
that.
Like, I find it weird and almost like, I don't know, maybe I didn't pay attention to a couple of lines, but like, how does Sydney know that the son of this dude that he killed is going to be at this diner at this particular time, that he will be lost and at his lowest point at this particular moment because he's burying his mother? Like, how does he know about the mother? Like, has he been following this guy for like a while? Like, that Facebook doesn't exist to this point. He would have had to really put a lot of effort into knowing what he's doing in his life.
Yeah, once the kind of suspension of disbelief kind of goes out the window, it's kind of very coincidental, very kind of like he knows that he's going to be at this particular location, blah blah blah, because the script demands it, kind of thing. Like, I do like the twist. I still stand by it. I do like it, but I do understand your point of view and how it kind of has some of the earlier establishment of their relationship and their meeting not lose impact, but like make a little less sense.
Yeah, totally. One thing that it does do, though, is that it does rise this sort of theming and idea at the end that you cannot, even if you try your hardest to make up for your sins of your past, is that they're going to come up again at some point.
Yeah.
And the past will come to haunt you again, if it is this drastically bad, and it becomes oh so messy when trying to cover up these holes when it comes like that with Jimmy bringing up Sydney's past in the end. It really only brings a little bit of the surface of it back up, because what really places him back in his past is Sydney's ultimate decision to then kill Jimmy instead of letting him take the money, right?
Yeah.
And then we see that in the final scene where he's back in the diner, and now he's got blood on his cuff of his shirt, and then he just he just pulls his blazer to cover it to. Like, his past is still there, but he's just hiding it.
He's doing what he was doing before and just burying it in both a figurative and literal sense with like putting his sleeve over his over the bloodstain.
And that's what he's doing in the first place, right? With finding these surrogate children. That really he's not solving the problem by filling these holes with different people. Solving the problem would be solving the issues he actually has with his kids. So all he's doing here is the whole process of the film is just burying his demons, putting soil in that hole where you could be putting cement in there, and there's no longer a hole that exists.
Oh damn, that's a fucking great analogy. Jesus, love it.
But yeah, so I keep on going back and forth with this, but maybe what that says then about Hard 8 is that it's a little bit messy, but. Maybe that's what your directorial debut should be, right? It should be a bit messy, so then you can just exercise some ideas, right?
Yeah.
Just putting them out there, showing that you can convey an idea, because you and I have seen many, many films in the past where sometimes they stand for fucking nothing.
Yeah, completely.
Today, I watched the second Venom movie, Venom Let There Be Carnage.
Yo, okay, yeah, what you think?
And that's a movie that just stands for nothing. It just has nothing to say. Oh my god! Actually, I'm throwing Venom to side. I watched the new Crow remake the other day.
I was thinking you were going to bring up the Crow, and then when you said Venom, I'm like, huh? But anyways, take it away.
Okay, that is a movie that has nothing to say. Like, I'm not going to spoil anything because it is like very, very recent. I think it's probably still in cinemas at the moment.
Let's be honest, though, no one's going to fucking watch it, bro. No one's going to watch it.
If you are listening to this when it is in theaters, please do not see it, because it is the most redundant film of 2024 so far, without a fucking doubt. God, I was not expecting to bring it up in this first Hard 8 episode, but it's already come up. So essentially, though, I'm trying to say, PTA at least is saying some things here, even if he is talking over himself at certain times, which I am definitely guilty of, as not being the most organized person in my thoughts.
Yeah,
so there we go.
No, that's completely fine, Rhys. Don't be so harsh on yourself.
There's one actor in this that is in one single scene that we need to bring up.
Oh my god, yes, I completely forgot. Thank you for bringing it up. Yes, which I would say the kind of the mainstay of the PTA filmography. The man, the myth, the legend, Philip Seymour Hoffman appears for one scene as a rowdy gambler. Completely caught me off guard, and like. Had he been in anything before, like, Hard 8? I feel like, because, like, did Philip Seymour Hoffman, I feel like he kind of blew up more so in the late 90s when he was in these PTA films, right?
I did look into this, and he definitely was in quite a bit of things before Hard 8.
Right, okay.
Like Twister for one.
He was in Twister? Damn, okay.
Yeah, no,
Damn.
right. But definitely more of he's still at this point a bit character. Like, he hasn't had a leading role yet.
Yeah, okay.
Even in Twister, it's not like that he's like the lead. He's just a bit of a character actor.
Yeah, character actor during that period. Yeah.
Yeah, it's still a while until he sort of blows up and people start to sort of see Philip Seymour Hoffman.
It was a while before, he had his biggest role in the Hunger Games series, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's such a strange cameo here, right? And I think almost it feels awkward because of how good of an actor he is.
Oh my, yeah, it caught me. Yeah, like I said earlier, it caught me so off guard, and it's just such a because. Like, I've seen a fair few films of his, and he always he always has such a commanding, very nuanced presence to himself. And then in this, it's just so different from what I'm used to from seeing him, you know? Like, oh my lord, I'm gonna end up watching. Well, we're gonna end up watching The Master, and I'm gonna be like, oh, when's his big freak out gonna happen? And then I'm gonna walk away super disappointed.
Nah, no way. I think that there's plenty more beautiful Philip Seymour Hoffman moments to come. But this is just a little taste.
No doubt.
It's just, what's weird is that he doesn't blend into the environment, and because he sticks out so much, you're waiting for him to come up again, you're waiting for him to have more relevance, rather than just I think that what he plays is just another sort of symbol of a big kid in Vegas.
Oh yeah,
and it's such
the just the rowdy showboaty show off kind of kid, you know?
Yeah, and doesn't it tie in perfectly for Vegas to be the location of this film, where it's essentially a big theme park for adults?
Yes,
that's what it's sort of known as, right?
Yes. I was gonna say that, and I'm like, no, Rhys will say it.
So that's of course why you would find so many man children all around. Yeah, really, really fascinating. All the lights that are so attractive and so appealing, but then there's just this grittiness and dirtiness underneath the surface that it's almost like you ignore.
Yeah.
You ignore all the dirt and the filth and the piss in the ball pit because the ball pit is so because there's so many funny colors in it, right?
It's so pretty and so alluring. You know, this arcade for adults is just such a it's so alluring. Oh my god, let's go play, guys, and yeah.
I feel like that there's not even too much extra crazy to really say about Hard 8, to be honest. Do you have much more to say?
I guess I just want to quickly shout out the phone call scene between Sydney and John. I thought that was really fucking well done, and honestly emotional high point of the movie for me. That was genuinely just a really nice performance between the two actors, and with Philip Baker Hall's his hard exterior, because he's had the hard exterior throughout the entire movie. You know, this very stern father figure. And that wall is broken down for a second when he finally professes his love for John and how he sees him as a surrogate son. That wall cracking down for a second, I thought that was beautifully acted. I just wanted to shout that out because we didn't do it earlier.
It is a beautiful scene. It's the whole film is populated by these beautiful scenes of vulnerability, right? And that's what makes it such a human movie. When I think of probably my favorite scene in the film, it's probably when Clementine comes back to the Sydney's hotel room and is pretty much put up for the night.
Yeah.
And the interaction between both of them where she expects that he wants something from her. And the exposition of him telling her why? Why can't it just be that I want to do something good for someone? And seeing that Clementine has never experienced this before. She's someone that probably as a young attractive woman in Vegas has always been surrounded by people, especially men, that want something from her.
Yeah.
And she's not used to having anyone be selfless and just provide for her.
Not used to being not used, I guess, you know what I mean?
Yeah. That's the detail and nuance of so many of these scenes is that you can tell that each one feels like it has a purpose for the character. The character changes a little bit and they come out of their shell a little bit more because of a discovery that's made by this sort of guiding light in their life. Yeah, so freaking cool. I want to hear what's your sort of final take and overall what how many stars would you give this movie even?
For me, all right. Well, stars. For stars, I'd say it'd be teetering between a 6 and a 7. A film that I think is really well done. I think that there's nothing wrong filmmaking wise. I think it's a very impressive impressive debut for a director. I think it's a film that I would like to rewatch. That I would like to rewatch in the coming future. That while it hasn't left as big of an impact on me as, say, like you or even like some of the later films in PTA's filmography, I think for lack of a better word, I just thought this was a very good time. I thought this was a good time, and I can't think of anything really deep and meaningful to say because I feel like what has already been stated, honestly.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. There's I love that there's so many seeds planted in this film, and it probably right away showed me what I think PTA does best, is that he also plants a seed in your mind, where I think that you think about his films post-viewing automatically. Yes. And even with this one not having as much to chew on as some of his later entries, it got me thinking about it for the next 2 days.
Yeah. You know, I literally just thought of this right now, is that I think a good way that I can like sum up this film, it's a great proof of concept for PTA and his filmography.
Oh, awesome. Awesome way to put it. There's, and even though that there are a lot of ideas going around and may not be the cleanest, I think that in essence, the entire film is talking about that adults that attract this much chaos, maybe it's because they're not quite adults yet. Even with Sydney being essentially the only adult here, the mistakes that I'm actually thinking that when he was in this sort of like killer phase of his life where he was engaging in crime and doing awful things, is that maybe that was a time of his life where he wasn't grown up yet either. But And sometimes people are just given the keys to the car of adulthood too early on, and they're just not quite ready for it yet. So the main contention is that people grow up too fast, and sometimes people aren't ready yet to be thrown into the wide world, and Vegas is the perfect place for it to be set as a playground for adults. But we will catch you next week for something a little bit bigger, a little bit grander, a little bit longer, with Boogie Nights. That was a dick joke, by the way. And don't forget to check out our Facebook page at MarathonMeOfficial, all one word, and our Instagram, MarathonMe_official, to keep up to date on the podcast. And hey, if you want to get into contact with us, email us at marathonmepodc, yes, the letter C, @gmail.com. Like a podcast without the arse.